Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this month's Anxiety Q&A live with me, Tim Box. I'm a remedial hypnotist. I'm a mind coach, and I do a lot of work with people one-to-one with anxiety. And I also have this YouTube channel where I put up videos sort of like every week about anxiety. And every month I do this live stream where I kind of go live for you guys and I answer not only the questions that are in the room with the people that are here, but also questions that you've left on my videos during the week. So I try and do this like once a month. So normally it's kind of like the first Friday of the month, and it is the 1st of August. Oh my God, it's August already. Where's that time gone? But what I've got basically for you tonight, I've got a load of questions that you put on my videos, and I'm going to answer them first. And then what I'm going to do is whatever comments have been coming in whilst I've been answering them, then I'll go to them. I'm going to be on probably for no more than an hour. An hour is normally what I try and keep it to. Although if you look at the other lives that are on my channel, you'll notice I don't always manage to keep it to an hour exactly, but that's roughly what we're going to do. So if you're watching this on playback, by the way, please feel free to ask any questions you've got and put them in the comments there, because I can answer them next month as well. And if you can't wait till next month to get your questions answered, then why not join us in the members area where I do a weekly live Q&A with the members. So I think that's all the admin done at the start of the live. That's just allowed a few people to join. If you're in the room, by the way, please say hello. Please don't just lurk. Please say hello. Hello, Salvo. Hello, Matt. How you doing? And obviously, if you have any questions, chuck them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them. Okay, let me start to go through some of these questions that you've put on my videos. I hope you're having a good week, by the way, everyone. We've made it to Friday. We've made it to the weekend again. Well done. Congratulations. Hey, Angelina. That's a username I don't recognize. Is this your first time joining the Q&A? If so, welcome. And you're in the UK, so your same time. It's 6 p.m. in the UK. Don't know what time it is for everyone else, wherever you are, but please feel free to let me know. Right, let me start. Kusaburo from Liverpool. Welcome. Right, okay. I'm having trouble with my navigation already around the page. Hang on. Right, here's the first question then. I'm going to chuck it up on the screen if I can. There you go. Brilliant. Right, this was one that I think was on one of the videos about anxiety symptoms. Anyone that knows me will know I don't like the word symptoms, but I put the title of the video as anxiety symptoms just because, well, people know what we're talking about, and that's probably what people are Googling. But I always think symptoms refers to illness. And obviously, one of the big messages on this channel is that anxiety is not an illness. It's an emotion. So the more we use the language of illness, the more we kind of put ourselves in that framework when we're feeling anxious, and it doesn't do us any favors. But anyway, it's really hard not to feel anxious when your entire head is ringing. Only thing that has helped me a bit is to try and distract yourself and tell yourself that's how it is, open to any suggestions. So that makes a lot of sense that would have been successful. Although distraction itself is not like the best strategy to deal with anxiety. It can work because ultimately a simple principle here is that anxiety sort of feeds off of our attention. If we're feeling anxious about feeling anxious, then the more we analyze ourselves for signs of anxiety, hey, the more anxious we get because it's an anxious thing to do effectively. So distraction can very much feel like it's a great strategy because we're not feeding the anxiety with our attention, where we're putting our attention elsewhere. But there is a sort of downside to distraction in as much as it suggests to ourselves and it reinforces in our mind this idea that there is something to distract ourselves from. There is some threat that requires a countermeasure to be employed to fend it off or kind of ignore it, if that makes sense. So if we just do things to deliberately distract ourselves from our anxiety, potentially we're just reinforcing and hammering home that message that there's something wrong with feeling anxious. And there isn't, you know. So that's the thing I would say, is that it's okay to notice that you're anxious as long as that doesn't come with any menace or threat to you. It's just, yeah, I'm feeling a bit anxious right now. Yeah, and you know what? It might be for a good reason. You might be anxious about something that's coming up in your day or in your week. You know, or there might just be a thought that you're not too comfortable with about absolutely blooming anything that's going on in the world right now, or with your circle of friends or connections or family. God, I mean, how many things could we feel anxious about in our life? There's hundreds, maybe thousands of things at any given time that we might feel is important to put our focus on. So it might be a cause for concern. So anxiety is a very natural emotion. So if you try and distract yourself from all forms of anxiety, you're on a bit of a losing battle there, because it's that ubiquitous emotion that we feel. It's the emotion that steers us towards what we regard to be important. It's a bit of our subconscious saying, hey, conscious, pay attention to that thing because it's important. That's always going to be happening. So it's okay to notice anxiety. It's okay to notice that you feel anxious. That doesn't mean there's anything going wrong. Yeah. And that the second part of that, telling yourself that's how it is. And I appreciate you're talking about your head's ringing, you know, and I think this was as a response to somebody put a comment about tinnitus as well. And you might think, well, that is something going wrong, isn't it? But essentially, it's not, because what you're experiencing is a natural response to stress or to overwhelm. These are not malfunctions. This is just you having a reaction to it. So when it's like telling yourself that's how it is, don't tell yourself that with sort of resignation that this is how it's always going to be. It's like, yeah, that's how it is at the moment, and that doesn't mean there's anything wrong. Because as soon as we take away the perceived threat from whatever sensation we're experiencing, then it kind of all starts to calm down, because we're no longer perpetuating whatever anxious sensations, I should say, whatever fearful sensations we're creating. Because obviously the visceral stuff, the physical stuff, that isn't just anxiety, that's fear, you know. But I hope that makes sense. Hey, Dee, welcome. Just to let you guys know that have just joined, I will be getting to everyone's comments that are being put in the chat. What I'll do, I'm actually, by the way, answering comments that have been left on the videos. So when you see these questions going up on screen, that's because they've been left on the videos this month on my weekly videos. But keep putting your comments in, because I'll keep sort of dipping back into those comments to see the ones that are actual direct responses to what I'm talking about right now. But if you've got a question for me, put it in there, and I will get to that after I've done. I've gone through the pre-left. What do you call the pre-loaded up questions? That makes sense. Abdur, good evening. Heavy Mental, fantastic username. Is that the best one yet? Maybe. Good evening to you too, though. Hang on. Right, let me move on from that question. Hopefully that was of some value there. It's not about doing things differently. It's about seeing things differently, about regarding and perceiving things differently than we currently do. Always remember, right? Here's a basic tip. Your anxiety response is appropriate according to what you perceive your current reality to be. So if your current reality is that anxiety means there's something going wrong, oh yeah, then you're going to have a high anxiety response to feeling anxious. But if your current reality is, hey, there's nothing wrong with feeling anxious, you'll have a low anxiety response to feeling anxious. You won't pile anxiety on top of anxiety. So that's what we want to change here, is our understanding of what it means to be anxious, because then that will change our response to it. Yeah, how that makes sense. Right. This is one about sleep anxiety. Sleep anxiety has become absolutely unbearable for me. I'm trembling right now. Any tips? I know there was a reply to this comment as well. That was, yeah, same here. So, right. Trembling, it's cortisol and adrenaline. Yeah. So when we trigger the stress response, then we go into fight or flight, adrenaline comes to the party, cortisol levels go off the charts. And it's basically the stuff that's trying to get our body moving, because that's what fight or flight is. It's, hey, move quickly or we might be in trouble here. You know, let's save our life with instant action. So that's completely natural. That's the only thing that's going wrong here is that we're perceiving threat from a situation that logically we're thinking, hey, I'm just laying in my bed, I shouldn't be feeling threatened here. But of course, what you're feeling threatened by is this idea that I'm not asleep yet and I need to sleep. Yeah, because we've built up this idea of not sleeping as the big bad in our life. So my advice here is always the same. Instead of focusing on I'm not yet unconscious, take your focus off of that completely. Simply just say, my job here is not to go unconscious. It's just to spend some time resting in bed. Rest my muscles, rest my mind. I've got nothing to do for the next 8 hours or whatever, however long you've got in bed at that time. That's brilliant, isn't it? Let's enjoy that time. And the other thing, I think I added this in the comments of this question here, but sleep is something you do without trying. That's really, we miss that at times, don't we? How many times do we say, I'm trying to get to sleep? Okay, you're doing it wrong then. Sleep is something that occurs naturally when we stop trying to do anything. Okay, it's something that happens when we're not paying attention to it. It happens without us noticing. So stop trying to pay attention to whether you're asleep or not, because that's what's getting in the way. Now, you might think, no, it's all the trembling in my muscles. It's all that. No, that's not what's stopping you getting to sleep, because actually it's your focus that perpetuates that physical response. You're not having a physical malfunction here. You're having a natural response to feeling threatened by the fact that you're not yet asleep, and you're desperately trying to get to sleep. You're trying to do more and more and more to get to sleep. And all you do is you move further from being unconscious because you're trying to do more and more and more. Yeah. So as with many instances with anxiety, allowing it to be, allowing you just to say, okay, but let's stop putting all this pressure on myself to be asleep. Let's stop trying to get to sleep. Because guaranteed, when you calm down, when you lift the pressure off yourself and you stop fretting about not being asleep, you will very, very probably just doze off. Because, you've had a full day awake and it's dark, and that's what happens. Yeah. I hope that makes some degree of sense. Okay. Mirage, good evening. Is that a username or is that your real name? Mirage, because Mirage is a brilliant name, if that's your name. We were talking about names the other day, me and my wife, not because we're having a kid or anything, but because we were just like thinking what would be a really cool, like words that shouldn't be names, but they would make great names, And now for the life of me, I can't remember any of them, but yeah. Anyway, moving on. Let's get to the next question so we can actually get to the comments. Just to bring you up to date, if you just come in the room, I'm going to get to your comments once I've done the questions here that I've already loaded up from the videos of the week. And I keep repeating that. Hang on, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pause for a sip of my tea. I hope you're enjoying a nice, refreshing cup of tea as well, everyone, as you watch this live stream. By the way, if you are joining me for the first time, I do these every month. So please hit the subscribe button and you can join me every month. You can ask your questions and I can answer them, hopefully. And hopefully we can get back in control of our anxiety response. And that's what I do on this channel. Yeah. And by the way, all my advice, it comes from 15 years of working one-to-one with clients. That's what I do every day. I was seeing clients today. Yeah, that's my job. So it's not just theory. It is stuff to help you change. Right, let's put this one up. Fear of fear is the thing I want to dismantle. I've heard of this practice of deliberately writing a narrative of post-exposure success as consolidation, emphasizing to our minds that we made it through and everything turned out all right. Any tips for a practice of consolidation that will help our subconscious mind accept this message? Okay, let me go back to the bit before that. Right, so this is the video where I was talking about, do we confront or do we avoid our anxiety triggers? Yeah, triggers. And I was pointing out in the video the idea that exposure therapy that works on, systematic desensitization by gradually exposing ourselves to the things we fear. And the problem being that all too often our mind concludes that this was really difficult and really traumatic rather than, but we did it. Focuses on the first bit rather than the last bit. So I can see the value of consolidating when you do an exposure. I'm not an exposure therapist, by the way, so I'm not trying to sell you on exposure therapy. But the idea of that we put the focus on, hey, we made it through, kind of thing. Like we consolidate and we frame the experience as a positive one. The only thing I would say is that if we're doing that, emphasizing to our minds that we made it through all right and everything turned out all right, everything was all right. You know, the whole made it through again just gives us this idea that it was a chore, it was a trial, it was a challenge, when really the only challenge about it was our own response to it. You know, the thing that we've been struggling to do, like go out socially or go into work, or, you know, any of the other myriad of things that we might feel challenged by when we're feeling highly anxious in our lives. The idea that, hey, we made it through that challenge, but there was, what we really want to learn is that there's nothing to be afraid of. Yeah. And if we talk about making it through that trial, then we again reinforce that idea that it was something that was potentially where the fear was warranted. And what we want to learn is the fear is unwarranted. You know, we want to learn that, hey, that it turns out there was nothing bad about that thing. Nothing bad happened. You know, we might look at it and think something bad happened because we felt really bad. Anxiety happened. No, it didn't. You know, we produced an emotional response to the situation that actually proved to be the only thing that was unpleasant about that situation. So maybe we can frame that emotional response as inappropriate. Maybe we can look at that now and say, okay, well, what would it have been if I hadn't reacted? You know, if I hadn't gone in there with fear, it probably would have been completely benign and not just unimportant, but uninteresting. Yeah, it would have been nothing. It wouldn't even been an experience worth reporting about. So that's the thing. So that's, if you want to, you know, a consolidation message that would help your mind reframe it. Yeah, actually, nothing bad happened. I was mistaken to be fearful. Yeah. And by the way, I don't mean mistaken as in shame on you. I mean, yeah, humans make mistakes. But the good thing is when we make a mistake, we learn from it so that next time we don't make the same mistake. That, for me, is a better reframe of what's kind of consolidating thought, if you like, that takes that experience and uses it positively rather than simply just being a leaf on the breeze and saying, well, that was bloody difficult, wasn't it? You know? Hope that makes sense. Strawberry Polka Dot, good evening. I'm dipping back into the comments just to see who's arrived and who's. If you are in the room and you haven't said hello yet, why haven't you said hello yet? Why aren't you talking to me? But you don't have to ask a question. Just say hello. Then I'll know you're there. And obviously, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for regular videos and monthly live streams. And if you really like what I'm talking about, why not become a member of the channel? It's literally something like £9 a month. You know, what would you go without just to get your anxiety back in order? Like 1.5 coffees, maybe a month. I don't know. I'm doing a sales pitch now. Right, next question. Why isn't my mind letting go of the feeling of fear in certain uncomfortable situations, always falling back into a loop? Okay, so because there's something about the situation you feel threatened by, basically. And I would need to know this individual's situation they're talking about and the thought that goes with that. Okay, so if you're going into the same situation, an uncomfortable situation, see a feeling of fear in certain uncomfortable situations. So you've already called it an uncomfortable situation. Is it a social situation? Is it a work situation? Is it a relationship thing? Is it, I don't know, whatever the uncomfortable situation is, you're framing it as an uncomfortable situation. So there's a bit of you bracing for that discomfort. So that could be why you continue to feel afraid. Or it could just be because you know the situation is legitimately uncomfortable. So, you know, like if public speaking is an example, isn't it? yeah, we're going to feel a heightened level of adrenaline in that situation, because here we are on the stage with everyone. We want everyone to like us and agree with the message we're saying. We don't want to fuck it up, and, you know, we want to make a good impression, but we're aware that maybe we can't keep everyone happy because everyone wants different things from us. You know, we're all human beings with our own ideas and our own likes and dislikes. So there's a bit of us that feels pressured, you know. So maybe it's a legitimately uncomfortable situation. But probably we're going into a fear response because we think there's something wrong with feeling discomfort or feeling anxious about this particular situation or circumstance. Yeah, if the scenario we're currently involved in, the worst thing that could happen is we feel anxious, then yeah, we're now being afraid of being anxious. And sometimes if it's a legitimately uncomfortable situation, we need to say, well, it's okay that I'm experiencing discomfort. You know, when I gave my TED talk, I knew I was going to be nervous. I knew I wouldn't feel comfortable up there. I mean, after a while, I think I got there. I think I did feel a certain level of comfort, but I still breathed a huge sigh of relief when I walked off and I hadn't completely effed it up. And I'd remembered to say everything I wanted to say. You know, imagine if I'd have thought, oh God, no, anxiety is striking. I feel real, my heart's racing. I can hear my voice trembling a little bit. Everything's going wrong. I'm having a malfunction. That would have quickly escalated, wouldn't it? It would have become, you know, some level of high anxiety or panic. But I was like, no, this is appropriate. I'm shitting myself. I'm in front of 300 people. They're filming it for YouTube, you know. I'm just like, that tracks, you know. So maybe it's more about the way we frame the uncomfortable situation. You know, telling ourselves the story like, because I feel uncomfortable, that means it's something to fear. I'm fearing my responses or something like that. Sometimes you just got to let ourselves say, that's okay. Where we are now makes sense, you know, because then you'll very quickly find that the edge is taken off of that feeling. Yeah, because you're focusing on the task at hand. Imagine if when I gave my TED talk, I'd have felt nervous and suddenly all of my focus had gone on to how nervous I felt. I wouldn't have had a clear head enough to remember the 18 minutes of script that I had to recite. And I certainly wouldn't have felt comfortable enough to actually, you know, gesticulate and deliver it as something other than just a load of words. You know, I needed to emote a little bit, you know, to a degree. Yeah. But when I felt nervous, I was like, yeah, that's okay. The nerves are saying focus on the things you got to say. So that's where my focus went, rather than, oh no, nerves. Yeah, and that's the difference, I think, is allowing ourselves to feel how we feel without feeling the need to examine that and correct it in some way. Yeah. I hope that makes sense. Hey, Stacey, good evening. Right, we're nearly at the bottom of these questions. I think I've got a couple left, and then we can get on to any questions you guys have got in the room. Right, let me go. I get stuck in a pattern of absolutely zero anxiety for weeks and then fall back anxious for a week or so. I know consciously that it's harmless and will pass, but I can't arrest this pattern. Any advice? I think it's the attempt to arrest the pattern that probably causes it, if you know what I mean. I think I get, right, that when we get the other side of like the worst of our anxiety, there's this thing that happens where we feel good for a little bit, and then, oh no, I'm having like a relapse, or, you know, my remission period is over or something, because we feel anxious again. And I think that generally is because our mind hasn't quite understood this to the level it needs to. It still thinks anxiety is a problem. Yeah, as in to feel anxious would be a problem. So we feel good, but then, I don't know, something happens in life that it is a challenge. And I don't mean a huge challenge, it just means, you know, day to day, Monday morning is more challenging than Friday afternoon. Do you know what I mean? That kind of thing. So it's like, and if we've still got that part of our mind saying, oh no, anxiety is the big bad, anxiety is the thing I run from, anxiety is the thing I'm trying to live without, then we might find ourselves reacting to feeling slightly more anxious today than we did yesterday, and creating a further layer of anxiety that then just creates more anxiety, because now we recognize, oh no, my anxiety is returned. Because as soon as we've started to call anxiety a thing, the enemy, the bad guy, then there's this danger that when we experience it to a degree that is less than comfortable, then we'll now react to that as if the bad thing has landed on me again. But maybe it's just, hey, anxiety. And, I can't arrest this pattern. Stop trying to arrest the pattern. Yeah, accept the pattern. I'll have 1 week feeling good. I'll have 1 week feeling not so good. I would also challenge that perception a little bit, maybe. Maybe there was never a time when you just felt fine for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. Maybe there was always good days and bad days, good weeks and bad weeks, times when I felt overwhelmed and stressed, times when I felt fine. But that was all before we'd created anxiety as the monster. That was all before we'd started to put our focus on our anxiety as the big problem. So all of these things happened outside of us consciously acknowledging, oh, there's an anxiety problem that week. No anxiety problem this week. Oh, no, next week, yeah, there's an anxiety problem that's reared its head again. We were just living life and its natural ups and downs. And maybe it's only because we recognize that villainous figure in the shadows now that we hadn't noticed before. And again, that's the problem, isn't it? There is no villainous figure in the shadows. There's just us and our mind responding to life's challenges, sometimes better than other times, Sometimes, the waves send us up and down. You try and fight that, you'll just end up getting very seasick. You got to go with it sometimes. They say keep your eyes on the horizon, and you'll notice the ups and downs a lot less. What does that mean, though? I don't know. Stacey's been a member for 6 months, has just come up on the chat. Amazing. I didn't even know that was a thing, that came up and informed us of that. Well, I hope you've enjoyed being a member for 6 months, Stacey. Hope it's been of value. Right, hang on. Oh dear, hang on. Did everyone just hear my email ping? Turn the email off, Tim. Oh, professional, not much. Right. Let me get last question. How do I manage the intense anxiety I get when meeting new people, being in public settings, or doing presentations? I've noticed it mostly kicks in when I'm around people I think are smarter than me, and the air was thick with imposter syndrome. Yeah, okay, that's a real, you're talking to somebody who previously suffered with social anxiety to a real extreme degree. So, I totally get this. Meeting new people, public settings, doing presentations, fear of judgment. And obviously, when you're around people that you think are smarter than you, that fear of judgment goes through the roof then. Not only are they capable of judging me better than others, but also their impression of me is going to be a lot less because they'll recognize me as not as smart as them. I already know what their judgment will be. How do you manage the intense anxiety? Do you just want to manage it, or do you want to kind of stop it being a problem? It's like, it sounds like you're asking for physical advice about how you manage the sensations, when really that's your subconscious is producing a response. If you were a client now and you said, I want to manage the intense things, I'd be like, wouldn't you rather not have the intense sensations? Wouldn't you rather just go into those situations and feel fine about them? Yeah. So let's go back to the TEDx talk example. Yeah. I definitely had some physical sensations. Yeah. Because I know my heart was beating faster than it otherwise would have been. But it wasn't intense to the point where it felt inappropriate. Yeah. So if you like, I managed the intense sensations by accepting that, well, yeah, that seems perfectly legitimate. So I'm not going to question them. And as a result, as I started talking, and a bit of me said, okay, I think we're okay. There's nobody going to rush the stage and tell me I'm shit, or people laughed at my joke there, that sort of thing. People seem to be listening. They're not throwing stuff. My response just gradually went down a little bit. And it was allowed to because I wasn't analyzing whether my feelings were correct or not, you know? So by the end of the talk, I couldn't tell you how I felt halfway through the talk. I just couldn't tell you because I wasn't paying attention to it. Yeah. And that's the point here. So don't try and manage the sensations or the anxiety. Just do what the anxiety is telling you to do. Focus on the important stuff. And if the important stuff your mind is telling you to focus on is stuff that isn't important, then calm that bit of you. Remind that bit of you, hey, this isn't important. And I would suggest the thing that isn't important is whatever anyone else thinks of you. Even if you're doing a presentation at work where it's in front of the boss and you need to make a good impression, ultimately, you are the expert on what you think. Yeah? Just tell people what you think. They'll either like you or they won't like you. They'll either agree or they disagree. And some will agree and some will disagree. Some will like, some will dislike. That's a given. That's certain, isn't it? We can't odds that. So how do we deal with that uncomfortable truth? Well, just stop paying attention to whether people like or dislike what you're saying. Make sure you like what you're saying. Make sure you are being the person you want to be, because that's the thing you know best. That's the thing that you will find easiest, is just to be you. As soon as you stop trying to keep everyone else happy, that's where the whole problem comes from. Certainly for me anyway, trying to keep everyone happy with me when I didn't feel great about myself and I didn't think I could make everyone happy with me. And then you think, well, why am I trying to make everyone happy with me? What's the point of that? A lot of these people that I'm trying to make happy with me, I don't necessarily respect, or I don't necessarily need their approval anyway. My happiness isn't dictated by how much people like me. Yeah, it's nicer when people like you, isn't it? It's nicer that everyone says you're great rather than everyone thinks you're crap. But ultimately, that won't stop you from pursuing happiness if everyone in the room currently doesn't like you. There's other rooms, there's other people. And, I guarantee you, if you care about something and you believe in something, there will be whole swathes of people that dislike you or dislike your opinion. Does that mean you shouldn't believe in something? I don't think so. That's the only way we find our people, is by knowing who we are. Yeah, because that will tell us who we should be with, But ultimately, if we do a deep dive here, getting anxious when you're meeting new people in public settings, doing presentations, people are smarter than me, do some work on self-esteem. Yeah, that I do a lot of work with my clients on self-esteem in terms of getting them to realize that they're not the only one with doubting thoughts. They're not the only one who makes mistakes. There's this thing that I refer to as highlight reel syndrome, where we see other people's best bits. We see the on the face of things version of other people, because that's what we as human beings show people. But of course, we just see their highlights. Whereas we see all of our behind the scenes, all of our outtakes, all of our mistakes, all of our silly thoughts, all of the multiple times we tried to get something right and then didn't really feel good about how we did anyway. So we compare other people's highlights to our outtakes. We don't measure up so well. Okay. But just remember that other person's perspective is exactly the opposite. They will see only your highlights and they will see all of their outtakes. People that are successful in this world don't tend to be the people that think they're awesome. It's the people that recognize that it's okay that they see their flaws. Everyone's got flaws. I think it was Winston Churchill that said the success is the ability to move from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm. Yeah. And I think that's a good quote. I think that's a good sentiment. But yeah, that's my short form thoughts on that sort of stuff. That ultimately, with all social anxiety, the place you want to get to is understanding that it does not matter what other people think of you. It does not matter what judgment other people place on you. My wife has a great saying: nothing matters and nobody cares. What an inspirational thought that is. Nothing matters, because ultimately the thing that you do right or wrong in the next 5 minutes, you will not remember years from now, because it's just one of a million things that you will do between now and then. So it doesn't matter. And nobody cares, because you are not the center of everyone's world. The main thought that people are having right now is not about you. It's about them and their own struggles, their own stuff that they've got going on. So do not think for a moment you are under intense scrutiny, even when you are at the front of a room giving a presentation, because I guarantee on the list of what matters to me at the moment, on everyone in that audience, you are quite far down the list. Everyone else has their own shit going on. And any judgment of you is fleeting, you know. Anyway, I hope that's a fact. I've gone on a bit long on that one. Sorry. See, this is the thing with social anxiety, because it was the thing that I went through. That's why I tend to get on one when I'm talking about it. Hey, Lozzie. Hey, Steve. Puzzle game. Good evening. Puzzle game. Okay. Right. So I'm done with everyone's questions from the videos from this month. So I'm going to now start on your questions that you've put in the comments. So I'm just scrolling down at the moment. Under a Pisces moon, I'm suffering from health anxiety post-surgery. Sorry to hear that. Hope surgery went well. And I think it's a very natural thing. Let me just put that up so that I know what I'm talking about, as in I know that's what I'm dressing on. That's a very natural thing after surgery. And probably, you know, obviously there's been something that you've had to get corrected with surgery. So a very natural thing to have a little bit of anxiety about your health at the moment. That's okay. Don't question that. Don't fixate on it like it's a problem. Just know that naturally, what tends to happen, the more time we put between us and any health issue we've had, the more that diminishes. Yeah, the less concerned we get about that as we start to, you know, reconnect with our own ability to, you know, be strong and healthy. And, you know, the thing about the human body is I remember my original mentor saying this, because I'm originally trained in hypnosis and hypnotherapy. That's my discipline, if you like. And my original mentor, when he was talking about working with healing, you know, he used to do a lot of work with sort of physical healing. And I don't mean like using hypnosis to magically heal broken arms and things like that, or cure cancer or anything like that. But he said the way I work with it, he said, was because the thing your body does best is heal. You're brilliant at it. It's just that a lot of times we don't allow our body to heal because we've got stressors getting in the way. And we've got a lot of stuff going on with us. So when we calm all of that down, it's amazing how quickly we can heal and how well we can return to health. You know, you'll have the faith in your body to do that. You know, I mean, health anxiety is a deep dive topic, obviously, and there's a few videos on the channel about health anxiety. If you go to the channel and you just search health anxiety, there's at least a couple of videos I think that will come up. But don't pressure yourself too much, because of course you're gonna recognize that you feel slightly more anxious about health than you did prior to all of that. So I had a health issue start of 2023, and I've spoken on this channel about it many times, that I think there was it was at least a month or 2 months. And bear in mind, this is me here. I deal with anxiety clients every day. So I know all this stuff and I know how to change this stuff for myself. But even then I went through this, and it was a good month or two before I kind of felt like, yeah, I think psychologically I've started to leave that behind. And I would suggest a good 6 months before I was able to do that thing where you just go, oh, great, I haven't thought about that for ages, have I? I'm really, it's just gone into the annals of history for me, you know. So it's don't pressure yourself to suddenly feel great or suddenly feel, you know, emotionally 100%, because you've been through a lot. Let yourself recover. Yeah. Right. DD. Why are all emotions intense when you're anxious? Everything's dialed up to 11, isn't it? I think they're more intense when you're fearful than when you're anxious. Okay, so let's just correct something here. I probably could say this at any point in any live or any video here. What people think is anxiety is normally fear most of the time. Yeah, because anxiety is just, hey, pay attention to the important thing. So it could be, oh, I've got to take the bins out, haven't I? Or, oh, I still haven't done the washing up before we go to bed. Or, you know, I've got to send that email. Yeah, anxiety is just, oh, yeah, that. The little thing that nudges us in the side of the head and has us suddenly thinking about the thing that we need to do or the thing we need to take action on. It only becomes visceral. There's only like the physical sensations become involved when it becomes fear. When the thing that we need to pay attention to carries some level of perceived threat, then it becomes fear. And then we start to have the stress response kick in, the fight-flight response. Okay, so that's why it's so intense, because it's become fear. We've become challenged. Our safety feels challenged. And so everything is a little bit more urgent. So I use the example of like the Starship Enterprise. So when in the old episodes of Star Trek, if Kirk hit red alert, you'd cut to scenes around the Enterprise with lots of people running through corridors going to battle stations. Now, only Kirk and the people on the bridge of the Enterprise knew what the red alert was about, what the danger was. Everyone else on the Starship Enterprise just knew there was danger. So they're all just, looking out the window for Klingons on edge, waiting to go into battle. And that's kind of what our mind does. When we go into an anxious state, we're looking for Klingons, we're looking for the threat. So all of our emotions then get a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more aggressive, because we're trying to take perceived necessary action. Yeah, because we're in a fearful state. Yeah, so anger becomes more amplified. The action that we might take to shut down a situation and right a wrong becomes more angry. Yeah, fear becomes terror. All that sort of stuff. Just because that's how we work. If it becomes fear, suddenly it's not just, that would be a good strategy for my happiness. Suddenly it's like, we need to do that now, or it might be the end. So it suddenly becomes time dependent, and that's why I think everything goes up to 11 a little bit, because we can't pussyfoot around here now. We've got stuff to do. But again, it can be a nice thing sometimes just to recognize, this is not my emotions all going haywire now and I'm losing it, I'm going mad. This is just, I'm in a fear state. So all of these responses make sense right now. And we don't have to fix our emotions. We just need to understand whatever we need to understand to realize, hey, we're not under threat here. Yeah. I hope that's of value, that thought there. Abdur, Tim, my anxious thoughts and panics are getting very frequent, but less duration. So I'm going towards recovery, or it's getting worse. You're always going towards recovery. Okay. Recovery, again, is a slightly tainted word. I probably use recovery without questioning the word too much. But again, recovery sounds like recovering from illness or something like that. I'm happy to use it because we know what it means, getting the other side of that high anxiety state. I tell you what, Abdul, if you stop asking yourself, are you getting better or worse, then you'll just suddenly fast track to getting better. Guaranteed. Because at the moment, it's only you looking at how you've been and questioning, am I going in the right direction? Am I doing the right things? You might be thinking, am I eating the right things? Am I exercising right? Am I sleeping enough? And all of this stuff is just trying to manage something that's going wrong with you, when actually the truth is there's nothing going wrong with you. You're actually now reacting to threat. And why are you feeling threatened? Because you're creating the threat in your mind. So stop asking yourself that question. You're always moving towards recovery, because if you start here, sometimes there'll be ups and downs. Sometimes you'll be more anxious. Sometimes you'll be less anxious, but you're always moving towards the other side of this period that you would refer to as your anxious period, or, when you suffered with anxiety. Yeah. So you don't know how long this is, how much ground you've got to cover here. But you can only go in one direction because time only runs one way. Okay? So continue the journey. Stop asking yourself whether you're doing better or worse, whether you're going in the right direction, because as soon as you stop asking yourself, you'll take a lot of the weight off your shoulders. You'll reduce your stress levels. You'll feel less anxious. If that makes sense. I hope that's of value. Okay. Heavy mental. I'm answering these questions. I'm assuming everyone that's asking the questions is still in the room as well. Might not be. Might got tired of waiting. Gone home. Who knows? Heavy mental. How do you recover from an anxiety disorder when it's the way you feel that is what's keeping your anxiety going? Breathing, chest tightness, etc. Okay. Right. The way you feel is not the way it is. Very simple phrase you can remember there. Yeah. So breathing, chest tightness. It feels like something physical is going on here. I can't breathe. I can't take a full breath. There's something, maybe my heart's pounding, maybe there's tightness in my chest, there's something going wrong. No. This is actually the appropriate response to feeling threatened because you believe you've got an anxiety disorder. So that's your illness now you're trying to overcome. Yeah. One of the first things I do with clients is I encourage them to let go of that label, kind of peel the label off of anxiety disorder, because we don't know that you officially qualify for an anxiety disorder by the time you see me. The only time you know that you officially qualify for an anxiety disorder is the time when you did the questionnaire with whatever therapist diagnosed you with it. And by the way, if nobody did a questionnaire with you, then you never got officially diagnosed. Somebody just said, sounds like you probably got an anxiety disorder. Yeah. And it's just a tick box thing. Did you score enough to officially fall in the bracket of what that big bumper book of mental disorders says currently qualifies as an anxiety disorder? So that day you did, apparently. Change something, learn something new, grow a little bit. Tomorrow you might not. So it's pointless labeling yourself with an anxiety disorder, because at some point, guaranteed, you stop qualifying for that. You fall outside of the realms of what would qualify as that. Yeah. So that's the first thing to say about that, if that makes sense. Second thing to say, because you feel threatened by the anxiety disorder, you're probably spending more time in the stress response, fight or flight, than we would normally expect to. Remember, fight or flight is designed to just save you in a second. Oh no, instant threat, jump, run, punch, fight or flight, literally. So the adrenaline is there just to do something quite dynamic, quite quickly, and for a short period of time to save your life. Now, the thing we're afraid of is this ongoing emotional state that we're looking at. And that emotional state is perpetuated by the threat we perceive from it. Then we spend a lot longer with adrenaline in our system, with our muscles tense, ready for action. Yeah, with our heart racing. And what happens then? We start to experience, what would we call? I say chronic physical effects, as in over time. Muscle tension causes pains in chest, tightness in chest. So it hinders the breathing. Yeah, because we don't feel like we can take a full, that kind of thing. This is all absolutely natural physical responses to spending more time in the fight or flight state than we ideally would want to. But what will happen is you don't have to do anything about that, because it's not an indicator there's something physically wrong with you, and it's not an indicator there's something mentally wrong with you either. It just means at the moment you perceive threat, so your body is responding appropriately to perceived threat, going into fight or flight. But the perceived threat is ongoing rather than just brief. And that's what your mind needs to understand, is that there is no threat here. And it doesn't matter how tight your chest gets or how quick or labored your breathing becomes, you ain't going to die. It's something that people skirt over as well. It can't kill you. Nobody ever died of anxiety or panic. And yet that's the big fear, isn't it? So let's allow our mind a little bit of leeway here. Let's lift that burden. How do you recover from this? You recognize that at the moment it feels like there's something badly going wrong, and the way it feels is not the way it is. Yeah, it feels like you can't breathe. You can breathe. It feels like your chest is tightening up. There's am I having a heart attack or something like that? No, you're just experiencing tension. All healthy, and all suggesting that your mind gives a shit about you as well, which is a good thing as well, isn't it? You care about your well-being. That's okay. I hope that makes sense. Right. I'm Kusaburo. Am I saying that right? That's how I'm saying it. Sorry. Hi, Tim. Unfortunately, I had a really bad relapse. I'm so sorry. Acceptance seemed to work last time, but what is the best way to implement this? What do I think, do, say, and tell myself when in the grip of anxiety? Right. I've got a video that I put up recently that is probably tailor-made for this question. And it's something, I forget what the title of it is now, but the thing is, it's the doing that's the problem. It's the, what do I do? I need to do something about this. You actually need to do nothing, because it's the doing that is what you're experiencing at the moment. You're experiencing a doing that is causing you to feel this way. And the thing that's what's happening is that your mind is feeling highly anxious about your relapse. Okay. And the whole acceptance seemed to work last time. I would suggest you haven't accepted. I would suggest you didn't do acceptance, because if you'd done acceptance, you wouldn't be saying whether it worked or didn't work. Because to implement acceptance as a means to get rid of your anxiety is not accepting. It's the opposite of accepting. It's doing something, whatever it takes, to get rid of the thing you refuse to accept. If that makes sense. I know acceptance is a real paradox in terms of understanding this, right? Accepting that you feel the way you feel, and that's fine. So, yeah, someday I'm going to be anxious. That's okay, because I'm a human being and I care about my well-being. So, of course, I'm going to feel anxious. And I would suggest what's happening here is that you've felt highly anxious about something or a situation, or even just mildly anxious. But at some point, anxiety has tipped the scales to the point where you're like, anxiety's coming back. I'm starting to feel anxious again. This is really bad news. I need to just accept it. I'll just accept it. Just accept it and it'll go away. Just accept it. It'll go away. And you're not accepting it, right? You're framing it as there's a problem here. The only problem was that it was something that your mind wanted you to focus on, that it deemed to be important. But before you got to look at that and do something about it, a bit of you said, hang on, here comes anxiety. That's the problem. Okay? So stop paying attention to it. It's not a problem. It's not anything you need to do anything about. The more you try to do, the more you do anxiety. If that makes sense. Yeah. The more you try to counteract or implement a strategy to get rid of anxiety, the more anxiety you create. And you're so close as well, because you've recognized that acceptance is a path to feeling better. Okay. I'm not saying getting rid of anxiety. Acceptance is a path to feeling better. And you've done it already. Yeah. So you're so close, because that last little lesson that your mind needs to learn is that, oh yeah, and by the way, even though I feel the other side of everything now, and I'm out the other side of the really bad phase of anxiety, and I've learned, oh, okay, anxiety, I am going to have a day in the future where I feel freaking anxious about something. That's okay. What did I say in my TED talk? The only two groups of people that never feel anxiety: dead people and psychopaths. Okay? Feel anxious. Embrace the fact that you give a shit about yourself and your life and your journey. And what will happen then is that anxiety will be at a level that is appropriate. Doesn't mean it will never be high, because there's going to be stuff that threatens you in your life, that challenges you in your life. Imagine if every time a big challenge arose, instead of facing the challenge, you instantly went internal and said, oh no, my anxiety's been triggered. So as well as the challenge in your life, you've now got another challenge you've just piled on top of that. Yeah, anxiety is a functional emotion. It's an important emotion. If we didn't have it, we really would have a disorder then. That really would be disordered, to not feel anxious about anything, you know? I feel I got a bit of a rant there. Sorry about that. There we go, Mirage now. Thanks for your videos. It's helped me a lot. I do suffer from anxiety in the past few years. It's also health anxiety. Well, I'm glad the videos are helping. These lives, I always think are like, the videos can like discuss an idea. I always think the lives are a bit more, I feel like I get to talk more, because obviously the videos, you know, they're scripted, and okay, I can say exactly what I want to say. I can present the ideas I want to present. But I feel like when it's chatting with you guys here and just addressing your own specific issues, I don't know, it always feels like probably that's going to be of more value. I don't know. Maybe you guys can tell me whether I'm right there or not. But yeah, and as I say, if anyone that is feeling benefit from these videos, then hey, why not join the members area for a couple of months, and you know, then you get weekly access to this sort of thing, and you know, you may benefit from that. Also, you get. I talk a lot about working with the subconscious and getting the ideas into your mind, and that's the bit I can't do on this channel. Is teach you that is do that part of what I do with my clients, basically the subconscious work. You can learn how to do that in the members area. So because there's a video tutorial, video training on that, because it is, you know, I literally can't do it on the channel because it's like, you know, 2.5 hours long, the video set there. But you know, it's worth dipping into, because it fills in the blanks of the things I'm talking about that maybe don't sound so obvious about how you would do them and what strategy you'd employ. It's like anyway. Abdul, you were okay. This is a follow-up to your question, Abdul, and everything starts to make me anxious and trigger panic attack, like sitting on motorbike, doing the gym, staying in the sun until I feel like I'm swaying for seconds. These things start my panic. So here's the thing, right, Abdul? This is actually I'm glad you added this little qualifier comment, actually, because this is an important point to make. There's only one thing that starts you panicking, and that is that bit of your mind thinking you are under threat. Yeah, there isn't anything that triggers panic. Okay, not like a cup of coffee, not sitting on a motorbike, not going to the gym, not staying in the sun, not feeling dizzy. There is your mind saying something about this situation is a threat to us, and that part hits the panic button. Panic is not something that attacks you. It's something your mind does deliberately as a safety strategy. The only problem here is that all those situations that you're talking about, you've now got the idea they trigger panic, and you've got the idea that panic is a threat to you. Panic cannot kill you. It cannot damage you. It cannot hurt you. It's uncomfortable for a brief few moments, and then it passes. The end of every panic attack is you calm down and you go back to normal. Yeah, that's the whole story. Don't just tell the part story of it's really horrible. Yeah. That's what most people talk about when they talk about panic attacks. I couldn't breathe. My chest was starting. I thought my heart was beating out of my chest. I thought I was going to die. And that's the whole story they tell. But then it turns out I didn't die. It passed. My breathing returned to normal. My heart rate returned to normal. And I felt normal again. And it lasted no more than a few moments or minutes. That's the story of panic. Not I nearly died. You felt like you nearly died, but you were never in any danger. Yeah, the problem here at the moment, Abdur, is that you've got certain situations that you feel trigger your panic, and as a result, you feel fearful of those situations. So when you're in those situations, you analyze how you feel, you notice any slight thing that doesn't feel 100% healthy and 100% right, and that bit of your mind says, oh no, a panic attack is starting. And what's the appropriate response to something you perceive to be life-threatening? The panic button being hit. So that part hits the panic button. That's the only thing that triggers panic is you. Yeah? So just know you are not under threat. You're not in danger. And when you know that, you'll be surprised how difficult it is to have a panic attack when you know that there's no actual threat posed by it. Because that bit of your mind saying, why would I panic about something that is of no threat to me? You know? Oh, under Pisces moon, you were saying about, I had neck surgery recently. I was so anxious about it, especially the anesthesia, life death situation. Just started to calm down thanks to lots of walking and fresh air. Walking and fresh air, best medicine. Yeah. Movement again, isn't it? It's like, the other thing to remember here is that when we go into a fight or flight, when we're feeling on edge, it's adrenaline. What's the purpose of adrenaline? To get us moving. So if we do move, this is why people get a lot of benefit from exercise, because that's kind of what your body's trying to get you to do. You're sort of answering the call, aren't you? Even if it's just a nice quiet walk in the countryside, reminding yourself, hey, look, I breathe, don't I? I move, don't I? Everything's fine. Yeah, I'm not saying there's some, like objective medical benefit to exercise or fresh air or whatever. I'm sure better people than me, more scientific, more biologists, chemists will all be able to tell you. Your scientists will be able to tell you the benefits of that. All I know is that emotionally speaking, it helps us to realize, oh, look, the sun is shining. I'm breathing in the fresh air. All is well. Yeah. People talk about being grounded, don't they? It's that sort of thing. It's grounding thoughts, Yeah. But I hope that helps that thought. We are at an hour now. I'm just going to see how many questions I've got, because I might. Oh, there's a few. I might be. Oh, Stacey, you signed the contract on your new job today. Well done. I'm so pleased for you. And your online mental health course I've been learning about imposter syndrome today. It's a thing. Okay, I'll just do this I'll do this last one because I feel like we're right. I don't want to just leave without doing this one. Bro, I have a question. Can stomach issues be the root cause of anxiety? I have GERD and antral gastritis. Could that be the reason for my anxiety? Is that true? Okay. Anything that you feel concerned about is a cause for anxiety, isn't it? Anxiety is the emotion that says pay attention to the important thing. If your gastrointestinal health is important to you because it's become a focal point, in terms of I have to manage that really well, yeah, of course it could cause you to have high levels of anxiety. It doesn't mean it has to. It doesn't mean like it's some biochemical link, stomach issues equal emotional issues, but it means you're reacting emotionally to your situation. The fact that you're asking the question, could this be the cause of anxiety, tells me that it probably is, because you're recognizing it's of importance to you. It's the source of concern. Yeah, that's it. And by the way, anxiety can be the cause for gastrointestinal issues as well, and stomach issues, because, the gut is where we store all of our stress and things like that as well. So yeah, there's no mystery there to be solved. That's just out and out. Yeah. Anything you're concerned about means you feel more anxious. Remember, don't think of anxiety as an illness that is triggered by something. It's an emotional response to something. Yeah. It's like saying, could somebody waving a gun in my direction be a cause of fear? Well, yeah. Could somebody giving me a present be the cause of my happiness? Yeah, because it's you reacting emotionally to the situation, Yeah. Let me see. I'm about there now. Let me just put Steve's one. I'm going to do one more. Hey, Tim, my stressful semester is over since 2 weeks and I still feel anxious and weird. I'm engaged in a lot of sports and I'm working a few hours. I feel like I should feel better with the anxiety. Okay. There is this thing, right? I see clients a lot of the time where I'll ask them, oh, when did this all start? And they'll say, well, it was a stressful time at work or at uni or something like that, or relationship, or my marriage broke down, or I lost my house, or something they went through that was really like, oh yeah, this is the cause of your anxiety, isn't it? But then they said, but then I got through that, I solved that, I got a new job, or I left university, or I changed my friends, or I've got a better partner now, and life is good. Life is really good, but I'm still really anxious. And I think a lot of the time what's going on there is that before we got out the other side of that stuff, we started to focus on our anxiety as a problem because it had been there for a while and we were just aware of always feeling anxious about it. Maybe we were losing sleep or, stuff like that. And we were just questioning how well we were handling it, how well we were functioning. And as a result, you've still got that bit of your mind that's monitoring whether you're anxious or not. And if you're not feeling completely calm, it was 2 weeks ago, my stressful semester ended. I should be feeling loads better now, shouldn't I? And now you're just feeling anxious about the fact that you're not feeling perfect, So it's like, allow yourself to feel shit, basically. Allow yourself to come down in the time it takes to come down from that. Yeah, because at the moment you've still got, a member of your crew up here that is monitoring for how you feel. Am I feeling better now? It's been 2 weeks, surely I should feel better by now, and now you're starting to regard it as a problem. Is this going to just continue then? It's like, you know what, you've just become too concerned with how you feel. And as a result, that's causing more anxiety, even though you're out of that actual situation now. But I hope that makes sense. There's nothing, I don't think there's anything you need to be inherently worried about there, Okay. I'm gonna have to end it there, I think, because we're getting way over time here. And I can see more questions coming in as well. So look, any of the questions that are here and I haven't answered, please feel free to bung them in the comments, and then I'll be able to put them. I can answer them in the comments, or I can literally just bring them into next month's live as well. Because I do these, if you haven't been on the live and you're only joining me now, I do these every month. The first Friday of every month, 6 p.m. UK time, I go live to answer your anxiety questions. I put videos up every week. And if you would like to specifically request a topic for a video, then please do, because that'll help me out to know what you guys want from me. And if you are receiving benefit from the videos and you'd like to dive deeper, there is a members area of this channel as well. And the things you get in the members area, yes, you get like an 80 video anxiety control program. You get a 2.5 hour tutorial in working with your own subconscious, like I do with my clients, to change your patterns of thought and response. But most importantly, you get weekly Q&As with me. So you get weekly contact with me directly to answer your questions. And it's only £9 for a monthly membership. So I don't actually know anywhere else on the internet where you get such a high value assistance with anxiety, for high value for low cost. I genuinely don't. I'm shit for blowing my own trumpet, but honestly, that's what I think. So, but anyway, thanks for joining me tonight. It's the weekend, so please remember to take some time off. If you're dealing with overwhelm, if you're dealing with too much anxiety, be kind to yourself and allow yourself downtime. That's what the weekends are for. Lift the pressure off yourself. Okay. And as I always say, always remember, be kind to your mind. And, I'll see you next time.